Hi, everybody. Welcome to our bi-weekly uh, news and thoughts and exchange extravaganza, where Yelena Perfilyeva and myself, Paul Moderman, we share the things that we're going to write about and think about and tinker around with and play with as we prepare for the next issue of our, I think, world world record holding uh,
Yeah,
ratings smashing Nerdletter. So, with no further ado, I'm going to start sharing
sweet.
what I am going to talk about. So, sure. Okay. Even though I kind of hate this like tech target
Mm,
thing. I saw a story that it did get my heart thinking or my head thinking, and I want to get the AI out of the way in this one, so I'll just do it first and I'll be over with it because all I really want to do is like a public service announcement. And I've kind of been doing some of this in some form or another for other things, but like the thing that I want to say to the universe is generative AI and the other kinds of AI out in the universe are not the same thing
mm,
in terms of what you can do, where they're applicable, how you make use of them. And I think in the broader world where people like don't spend all day, you know, daydreaming about AI or whatever, it can be very easy to get swept up in like the massive tidal wave, atomic bomb of hype
yeah,
around generative AI that I want to just give a quick PSA about like a couple of the differences here, a couple of things because I get people who ask me questions about generative AI that I think to myself, oh, you don't want generative AI. You want the other old school
yeah,
stuff for
yeah.
what you're trying to do, right? Old school, as in like 2016 vintage
Yeah,
stuff, you know?
it's so 2021.
So
So
I
old.
think yeah, it's so it's so old, but I want to just get a quick. This will probably be kind of at the bottom of the issue for me, but just
Mm,
a quick PSA on the differences. And like, if you're asking this question, you're not asking a question about Gen AI. You're asking a question about machine learning or image recognition or something like that, right?
mm,
So, just some of that stuff. You helpfully pointed this out to me. UI5 10-year
yeah,
anniversary
yep.
stuff, and that the official 10-year anniversary of some of these things is a little bit prior to like right now in time. Uh, but it's pertinent because I've spent a fair portion of my SAP career poking UI5 in one way or another, right?
Mm,
Since like
yeah,
2014 or so. Since UI5 became a thing,
yeah.
I've been poking UI5 in one way or the other.
And
And
wrote a book. And by the way,
yeah,
SAP Press
yeah,
is having a sale right
yeah,
now. Well, right now when we're speaking, when this goes live, probably gonna be done. But
yeah.
stay tuned for the next sale announcement. They do
I
those quarterly, so
I want to, and I want to. Uh, so that's good, and anybody should also buy Yelena's book who's watching this too.
yay.
I think hopefully we get enough purchases that I can get like a Big Mac maybe
Mm.
from the royalties of that stuff. That's roughly the royalties
Yeah,
of some of the nichey
pace of
stuff these days.
inflation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but it's still like even if I don't spend a lot of my day anymore in the last year or so, like really hardcore, like beating up UI5 apps, it still
Mm,
has a huge place in my heart. And I still, appreciate what SAP and the community have done and continue to do with UI5 technology. It's one of the best, I think it's one of the best successes of SAP in getting community involvement in
mm,
technology that SAP creates, or maybe originally creates might be a better
mm,
word for it. Um, and so there's of course this guy who's writing about it, and I think this especially pertinent here is like how did I get here from portals to UI5 and Fiori is actually a pretty common path
Mm-hmm.
out there in the UI5 Fiori space, right? Is that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the early people that I knew who had kind of heard the rumblings before I did about UI5 were people who were familiar with like portal type stuff, who had been doing SAP Portal, NetWeaver Portal kind of stuff for a few years prior to that. And so it kind of naturally bubbled up to their attention even before my attention. Because when I got started on it, I was just like, Joe ABAP guy,
Yeah.
more or less, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so it's a pretty common, pretty cool path. Um, but I want to show some love. I don't want to be any kind of a cranky old whatever. I'm going to show some love to UI5 because it deserves it, I think.
Mm.
And there's a video out there too, a 10-year video. I'll put a link to that in
Oh,
the
nice.
thing.
That post was very nice. I always enjoy reading stories from real people, from
Yeah,
SAS, other SAP professionals, just talking about how they got here or there. It's always interesting.
it is. And I think like what would be cool
Hmm.
would be just like everybody just sit down and like fire up their camera or fire up their editor or whatever, right? And tell their own story of a path through stuff.
Yeah,
Because I think there are as many stories as there are people
yeah,
who do SAP stuff and I mean, other technologies too.
yeah.
But like in the SAP world, there are enough. I mean, it's really unique how, or maybe it's not unique, but I really enjoy that flavor of, the folks who come in to a career or or a time in their career of doing SAP stuff, they oftentimes land there from somewhere else,
Hmm.
right? A lot of your other, maybe especially in the developer world, a lot of your developers like just like drop out of the sky from college knowing how to
Yeah,
do Java and Python and stuff like that. And they just kind of land in those seats and like on their merry way. But the SAP folks, it's the case for you, it's the case for me, it's the case for most of the people I know. Like they were up to something else and then kind of got, either tackled from behind
yeah,
or like made a blind leap into like maybe I want to check this out. And
yeah.
so I think that's really neat. I think that's a strength of the SAP ecosystem, even if the community sometimes feels like it's on life support these
Yeah.
days. It's a strength that I mean, like everybody who's around there doing stuff has done so many different things in their careers.
Hmm.
I really think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And finally, this is something that I saw, and you sent me a link to this too. I had written a piece in like February or March or
Yeah.
something like that
Yeah.
about the impending uh Hasso Plattner step down from the
Hmm.
supervisory board of SAP. Well, today is Thursday, May 16th. Today is day one of no Hasso at the wheel
Yeah.
of SAP or at the co-pilot stick or whatever you want to call it, right?
Mm.
There's no Hasso like whispering sweet nothings in Christian Klein's ear about like, do this, don't do that or whatever.
Yeah.
He's off to own hockey teams and whatever else
Yeah.
he does these
Boat
days.
boat racing.
Yeah. To do even more boat racing than he did before,
Yeah.
or maybe just yacht sailing or whatever too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a lot of cool stuff. I also still I don't know whether I'll write about this or not, but I mean, you can't read an SAP produced bio of Hasso without like tripping over HANA,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you just can't.
Yeah.
And the thing that continues to puzzle me a little bit is I desperately want to understand. I feel like none of the database companies out there want to go deep on like really deep specs and performance tuning things
Hmm.
for their DBs. Even some of the HANA stuff is outdated that SAP publishes and obscures some of the deeper comparisons. And like what I don't understand is I know how well HANA has impacted specifically SAP offerings.
Mm.
right? There's no doubt about that. There's no
Yeah.
doubt that
Yeah.
HANA
Yeah.
is a better thing. What I don't understand, well, at least, is if HANA is revolutionary, if it is revolutionary, why do only people who really do SAP seem to know about it?
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe I'm even wrong about that. Maybe I'm not right about that. But I feel like if HANA was as revolutionary as the marketing speak seemed to be saying, especially back in these days of 2011, 13, and kind of on like that,
Mm.
that like the rest of the databases out there in the world would have been like squished out of the marketplace. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. But like if I step outside SAP boundaries, I just don't see HANA anywhere,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so like I want to understand what drives that. Did other databases catch up in performance in
Mm.
some other way with their offerings?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe their path was not in memory, but some
Yeah.
other form of smarter performance management. I'm sure Oracle would have a ton of things to say to me right now if they were on the call,
Mm.
with a ton of nitpicky little details that they would say
Yeah.
makes them the best performing thing or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like, and it's really hard to find like the direct comparison on workload stuff. I'm like they don't seem to want to publish that stuff too well.
Mm.
And so I'm so curious about that. That's all I want to say is that I'm just curious about HANA because as an SAP person, I was drowning in the HANA tide pool
Mm.
when HANA was out there.
Oh yeah.
But like I said,
Yeah.
every time I step outside the boundaries, people are like, "Yeah, so what's HANA?" Or like they don't know about it, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, when it just came out, there was an issue, yeah, like you said, where is the benchmarks, etc. And people are questioning, is it, yeah, it is fast, but I think the blog post "Fast is not the number" was published at the time where
Yeah.
people were starting trying to get the numbers, and it was maybe still early days. Right now, I'm wondering if SAP just really doesn't care much, maybe selling HANA outside of SAP world because they're already
Yeah.
like Scrooge McDuck style, swimming in their money pools, having locked in all their own customers in that. So maybe it's just not really the thing for them. Also, SAP is not traditionally known as a database provider, so I guess Oracle in that kind of from that side, they already have an upper leg on SAP just because
Yeah.
you think database, like what's your first thought? I mean,
Yeah.
Oracle would be top 10 at least. But many other companies, they are not really interested in those huge, bulky, enterprise grade databases, maybe like at all, because I constantly hear like this or that database. It's like, oh, whoop, like suddenly came up, suddenly disappeared. Um, so yeah, I think it's a big kind of big ocean in which few whales are swimming probably, but the rest of the
Yeah.
fish probably doesn't care about the whales much. I'm guessing.
I
I
mean,
don't know, but yeah,
your point about price might have a sticking point too, because
yeah,
I do know that everybody I talk to has heard of it or who looks at it from the standpoint of a comparison thing.
yeah,
They come out of the room looking like they got slapped in the face
yeah,
when they see pricing for that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
So maybe that's a factor there too. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, just my head scratcher on that. But anyway, regardless, those are the things I want to do. So I'm not gonna complain about HANA at all. But I always, whenever I think about Hasso,
Mm,
HANA obviously comes up in the conversation when I do that. So
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
that's
Okay,
my stuff.
sweet. All right, so let me share my stuff now. All right, so one of my first story will be about this backend code review. I saw this, someone shared it, I think probably on LinkedIn or some other media. So this is obviously not SAP specific. Some person is sharing just potential backend code review checklist. But when I went over it, I saw quite a few items where it doesn't necessarily come up as part of typical ABAP code reviews, but I think it should. And I have seen in the past many cases when some of those items, they were actually really, really helpful, even though typically they would not be perceived as something you should have.
Yeah.
And obviously style is usually like, what's such a big deal? We try to push clean up as much as possible because there are some specific benefits, but companies are not really sometimes receptive to that, or specific developers are not. Code maintainability, it's a bit vague, but it's a big piece that should be part of all the code review. Some stuff, yeah, like API design, maybe some of it is not really like security. We have our own things in SAP,
Yeah.
but I wanted to,
Talk about a
yeah,
world where that's just a
it's
different beast,
like
right? Yeah.
yeah, completely
Yeah.
different thing. So some of the stuff it will not apply to SAP like at all. But funny thing I found here is logging. And it's not just logging, so verify that critical places are covered. And yeah, so there are logging guidelines. Automated tests, yeah, we have written about the tests many times, so that's
Yeah.
great. What was there? So okay, so logging. One part I wanted to talk about a little bit here on the video, and I don't know if I will have space to cover it in my story because we try to keep them short.
Hmm.
But in some of the previous projects where I worked on myself, we sometimes created the code specifically for testing, but not like for unit testing, but to simply make maybe testing and troubleshooting of our own code easier. And
Hmm.
what I mean by that is maybe some custom reports which help you maybe build the data, or they help
Yeah.
you call
Yeah.
specific functionality, or sometimes when, especially when it's some kind of complex, many steps, running different transactions in the program, when you need to troubleshoot it, okay, you run it, but sometimes you get a weird error. Where exactly did it come from? Or why is this data, why this field has this value and not that value? So we did outfit some of our code with really nice kind of trays, which we made optional, obviously, because you don't want to run it in production all the time, even though, I mean, sometimes you may need to. But I think the importance of this type of, even just thinking about, you go live, like shit happens, what do you do? Now you have your program that is very vague, does not help you to troubleshoot itself. So maybe prepare for it better. And I
I
think that,
yeah.
yes, so is that human code review, it's the right place to raise those questions. So yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
let's go ahead, Paul.
No, all I was gonna say is, especially with logging, I don't think I've ever had the thought, I did too much logging here. I don't
Yeah,
need that.
exactly.
I've never had that thought.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, this log is just too much. Just
Ah, who
way
needs
too
that?
much information. No, nobody needs that. So yeah, so really, so very nice, like very high level overview. I think I would like if someone just took this and created the same flavor for ABAP
Yeah,
specifically. I think that would be awesome.
yeah.
All right,
ABAP,
so
and the ABAP one would be easier to be more specific too,
yeah,
right? Because
exactly.
you're very
Yeah,
much in the bounds of like a kind
yeah,
of a specific beast, and they're
yeah,
man,
yeah.
yeah,
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 because this is like more like all purpose. Yeah, you can put much more specific stuff
yeah.
in ABAP one. So anyone looking for open source project, please there you go ahead, help yourself. So before I move on to another tab, I don't have anything specific to look at for my second item, but it is related to the code. So I'm just gonna just gonna keep this on screen.
Drop it like it's hot.
So yeah, so this will be kind of generic story about the I think the trouble that's coming up with the future, not future of ABAP, but future of ABAPers. And by that, I don't mean that AI taking our jobs, but ABAPers as in, I think there is, first of all, younger generation of ABAPers is kind of dwindling in general,
Yeah,
but also whoever is out there, I think somewhere along, I don't know, over the last decade, that transition from more senior developers to junior developers, the transition of knowledge, expertise, just sharing war stories. Somewhere globally, the ball was dropped like big time. And you would think that in these days of so many things available online, so many things, so many SAP Press books, like SAP community still sitting there, all those little other communities, or like I don't even know what else is going on, YouTube videos,
Yeah.
everything, all this
Yeah.
content, you would think that it should get better, but I honestly kind of have a feeling that it's somehow getting worse. And I know Paul and I talked about it in private many times. We did talk
Yeah.
about this also at the events or in private with many other people who are also kind of more senior developers, experienced
Yeah.
SAP developers. And I think that that's kind of agreement from everyone else, because I have not heard anyone say like, what are you talking about? Everything is like great in ABAP. There is like robust community of like new generation of ABAP developers, and there is no problem at all. And I,
No.
I also kind of specifically want to address companies in the United States before it's too late, like
Yeah.
before Paul and I retired. I think some like IT development managers need to do something, because what I'm seeing is there is a tendency to outsource everything, and I get it that it's cost efficient, but when you do that, the oversight is completely missing. Mostly, I would say there are. I mean, I only have anecdotal evidence, but I have a suspicion that many times there is no oversight and you don't even know it. So the code that you're receiving
Yeah.
is not great, but it's not gonna come out to you. You're not gonna know about it until it fails, or until you have to maintain it maybe years down the road.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
and and many companies completely rely on their service providers, which is great. But we have just recently I had this controversial story about SIs, and clearly it's like it's a box of chocolates where you don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah. I just like
Yeah.
I have in my consulting career, I've seen a few companies where like I think there is a desire on the part of that business
Mm.
to be like SAP is a huge thing and that's not our core business. We don't want to be running
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Right. So we
Yeah.
just want somebody to do it because
Yeah.
we just want to manage our systems. We don't want to manage the
Yeah.
system that manages our systems, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think in most cases, I mean, you can see why everyone wants cloud and clean core because of it, but like I don't think that most places who have relatively large SAP implementations or
Mhm.
or installs, I still don't think you can get away with just putting on the blinders to the difficulty of what's going on there.
Yeah.
Because like, man, are those SIs, they're gonna eat your lunch in terms of like you are at completely at their mercy
Yeah.
for like I want my system to do this and you simply don't even know whether that's possible,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And like yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's not ready yet. It's SAP ERP stuff is for most places, especially places who have it already, it's not ready for you to just like give up the reins. Like
Mm.
you lose something in what you're trying to do if you're just like, nah, blah, here you go, SI, take care of all my stuff.
Yeah.
You just you're losing a lot.
Yeah. And I've seen some companies kind of feeling that, but then they swing like completely other way, where for some reason they start implementing very like draconian either guidelines or even ATC checks that like just do not make any sense.
Yeah.
Ones from the top of my mind was check for percentage of comments in the code. So in every pieces of code, they required at least 10% of lines to be comment lines. And
Oh,
think
you're gonna
about
get
how
some.
stupid is that? Like in a
You're gonna get
5-line
some
method,
terrible comments in there.
exactly. So
Oh,
we're like, okay, so do I want to bother writing an exception for it and requesting exception for it, or would I just gonna write stupid comments there that basically tells you this select statement selects this. And
I like
so
I would be sorely tempted to just literally write stupid comment in the
yeah,
comment of the
exactly.
code,
Dummy
right?
comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. So that is not really solution. There is, I think there is reasonable solution, but I you can't like when you establish trust with someone, I think you can let go of a lot of this control. That's totally fine. But you need to establish the trust first. And I
Yeah.
think there are ways to control this within reasonable limits. So not being like overzealous, but also not too lax. And there are tools that many companies are not even using. And I mean, that company even at least like had some kind of check, like many just like, it's there, but what's
Yeah.
ATC check? Like, okay. So yeah, so very, very, very funny situations all over the place. And I don't know if I'm again, this is video nice, so we can talk maybe more than we actually write in the newsletter. I
Well,
think
yeah.
I think someone finally um need to fall on the sword here and be that kind of person to point out that king is naked and that there are I I don't know what goes on like in India. I have no idea. It's a huge country. There are like billion of people living there.
Yeah.
But I have a strong feeling that there are some really terrible like fly-by-night ABAP schools out there that are cranking out those ABAP developers just because it's lucrative career over
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
more so than in United States. In United
Yeah.
States, it's dying. In India, it's like hottest,
That's
still
where
very, very hot
that's where all the
skill.
work happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So there is a lot of work. So I get it why people would want to do that. But again, so the same issue of not getting knowledge or expertise, nothing flowing from senior level developers to them, or it's bad things that are flowing to them. And they are clearly getting some really bad training somewhere. I really would like to have some kind of crackdown on
Man.
those schools, on those trainers, on those people who are training those developers in such a way. Because honestly, if you bought my book, and again, I'm not trying to sell more books, but if you bought my other book, you would
10%
sit
off now.
and just did like literally nothing but just go through that. You would have been better developers than whoever is writing the code that I'm seeing, like in some of
Man,
some of the systems I'm
this
exposed
is
to.
you're totally right here. I just had dinner the other night with somebody who is like a grizzled about veteran guy from 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 battles many years ago.
Yeah.
And he's gonna retire relatively soon.
Mm.
Um he's got a few years left. But I think that one of the best things that the world could do or that the world could use from this guy is he should move to India for a
Yeah.
few years, live like a king, and set up a school that he does because this guy, he's so good. I learned from him in the first part of my career. He should if if the ecosystem was functioning properly, he would have like disciples.
Yeah.
He would have like people expecting him to like turn water into
Yeah.
wine. You know what I mean? Like he
Wearing
would,
toga, like
but there's yeah, exactly. He could just be standing up and preaching about whatever. But like instead, there's like if he metaphorically turns around, there's nobody behind him
exactly.
to
Yeah.
be his disciples.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, something I think needs to happen. I
yeah,
really would love, and I mean, if this work is going to India, then at least just do it right, folks. I mean,
yeah,
because
man.
honestly, you're just doing so much damage, and not not to just SAP customers, even to yourself. I mean, just have some
Yeah.
pride in your profession. All right, so getting off my soapbox
All
here.
right.
So
Soapbox cleaned off.
my third and more fun, but also AI related item
AI.
is I running out of subjects to
I
to
know.
complain about.
Uh,
I dug up this post that I have been kind of saving exactly for this occasion, which talks about different open source AI tools.
mm,
And this is again one of those nice and easy stories where you basically just give a link and there you go, awesome link. So you go and look at it.
yeah.
But I really like this post because it's not just a listicle of 900 tools, but this is cheap. He really did like great job doing the whole like data analysis. Just look at
Mm,
this like contents, like awesome, like
wow.
totally graphs.
That's
There
amazing.
is it's like like damn, like this. If everyone put that much work in their writing, I think ChatGPT would be out of work in no time, honestly, because I would much rather just read something like this. So really, really
100%.
excellent content. So great overview. This is something that you can like dig into and easily just spend like afternoon just going over this stuff. So
Mm.
really great research, great preparation, great, very thorough, many graphs. This is like graph addicts anonymous, like dream come true. So
Give me
if
some
you're
graphs.
if you're data nerd or AI nerd or both ideally, then you will just absolutely love this piece. So I'm really proud to share this with the readers.
That's
So
awesome.
that's all for me. And back to you, Paul.
Okay.
For
Well, as the master of ceremonies this time around, I officially let all of our listeners, viewers, etc. know that by this time next week we'll have the issue out of the gate. Please like, subscribe, comment, etc. both to this video and subscribe to our newsletter. And we will see you the next time. Thanks, guys.
awesome. Bye.